Hello, welcome back to the Creative Chicken. Today I'm working in my Square Dilutions art journal and I'm going to begin by covering my page in a good coating of black gesso. I'm using Pebeo gesso, it's one of my favourites, but you could use any black gesso that you have at hand. Just make sure you give your page a really good coating. So once you've got a nice even coating of black gesso all over your page, get out your heat tool and make sure you give the page a real good dry. It is important that your page is dry for the next step. So for my background, I'm going to stencil some Distress Oxide through some of my Tim Holtz mini stencils. Obviously use whichever stencils you want. Using the Distress Oxides gives a lovely creamy effect. They stand out really well on black, unlike most of the other inks. For instance, I wouldn't use just normal Distress ink on here, as you just wouldn't get it showing up on the black gesso. But as you can see, when I peel the stencil off, we've got that lovely creamy green showing up on the black. So once I was happy with the green, which was Twisted Citron, I went in with the second stencil, and this time with Marmalade Distress ink. Notice how I overlap my stenciling. That just gives your page much more cohesion once it's finished. Next I went in with Mustard Seed Yellow and a nice spotty circle, again one of my Tim Holtz mini stencils. I do love these because I can just pack these mini stencils up into my bag, take them with me and create art wherever I go. And then finally, my last colour was Mermaid Lagoon. If you know me, you know it wouldn't be one of my pages without a bit of blue. Next I decided to add a little stamping using the Distress Oxides. Now I wouldn't recommend Distress Oxides if you're stamping and you want a nice crisp clear image, but they do work brilliantly, I find, on art journals. The stamp I'm using here comes from a set by IndigoBlu, which I'll talk about a little bit more later in the video. Simply ink up your stamp, press it onto your page randomly. The lovely orange colour distress ink I'm using is Carved Pumpkin. So next I went in with some Rusty Hinge Distress Oxide, again using another stamp from the IndigoBlu set. Finally stamped a few butterflies in Twisted Citron. Again, these stamps come from the IndigoBlu box set. So to finish off the background, I decided I needed some splatters. So I just pressed some of my Distress Oxide ink onto my mat, gave it a quick spritz with water, rubbed it onto my splatter brush and splattered away. I decided to use the Carved Pumpkin, and then I went in again with the Mermaid Lagoon. So once I was happy with all my splatters, I just got out my heat tool and gave my page a good dry off. At this point I felt I needed a little bit of texture on my page, so I had a rummage around in my washi tape and picked out a couple that I felt were suitably grungy for this page. These came from a pack by Tim Holtz. I just tore a couple of bits of tape off and placed them onto my page. This is the IndigoBlu box set with the stamps that I've used previously, and I'm going to use a couple of stamps from this again for my focal point. I wanted to stamp on coloured paper, and I could have used some from the magazine itself, or if you're like me, you've probably got a stash of papers. These are all scraps, some that I've done myself with different techniques. Some have been used with jelly plates, Basically, I never throw anything away, it all goes in my scrap box. So I just had a look at different papers and decided on which one I thought would actually stand out best on this page. I was looking for something a bit brighter. No, that one wasn't quite right. Ah, perfect. I decided to go with the bright orange. Out came my handy stamp platform, and I decided I would stamp the big butterfly and the light bulb. The idea being that I would cut off the butterfly's wings and use the light bulb as the body of the butterfly. Once I had the stamps in position, it was simply a case of inking them up with my StaZon. You do want to use a permanent ink here, so StaZon, Versaclear, Versafine or Archival would do the job perfectly. So a quick rub of the stamps with a baby wipe to clean them off, then a blast with my heat tool just to fix the ink, and I was ready to start fussy cutting. This is not my favourite thing to do, as everyone who knows me knows how much I hate fussy cutting. But unfortunately, no die to go with these stamps, so you have to cut them out yourself. So fussy cutting finished, you can see that I've actually cut away the butterfly's body, so I now have 2 wings and a light bulb. Next, using the same card I'd stamped on, I cut some strips 1 centimetre wide, and the idea was that I would use these to write out my sentiment. Once the strips are cut, just took my black journaling pen and wrote out my sentiment. And there we go, that's my focal point and my sentiment cut out, and it's just a case of deciding whereabouts on my page I wanted to place them. As I laid pieces onto my page, there were a few white bits that I didn't really like, so I just took my Distress Oxide in my yellow again and rubbed around the edges, blended a little bit over the white bits to make them blend into the oranges and yellows in the background. And once I was happy, it was time to think about sticking pieces down. For the focal point, I just used a bit of Tim Holtz Distress Collage medium in matte, but any PVA glue would do. Stuck down the wings and the light bulb to create my own version of my butterfly. I then decided I needed to make the sentiment stand out a bit more, so I simply took my journaling pen and created scribbly borders around each segment. To stick the sentiment down, I used double-sided liner tape, but you could have, of course, just use your PVA glue or your Distress Collage medium, whichever you prefer. As the page is about darkness and light, I decided I wanted to glow around the bulb, and I did this by just using some Distress Oxide in yellow and gently blending it around. Finally, I took a white Posca pen and did a scribble border all around my page just to finish it off. And that's our page complete. I hope you've enjoyed crafting along with the Creative Chicken. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, or maybe subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, you can purchase all your art supplies online at creativechicken.co.uk. Bye.